Yeah, you want to test yourself?
Yeah, I test myself. It's pretty good.
Hey, welcome to episode 169 of Front Seat Gamer. No jokes about that. I'm here with Blake. I'm here with Paul. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Yeah, good.
Great.
What's that episode number again?
169.
Oh, okay. 169.
Yeah, 169.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's like 69, but there's 100 in front.
There's 169.
Well, it also means
No,
there's
that's
only
just
one
the-
of them.
Huh?
There's only one of them.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
the total number is 169.
169 though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just 169.
Yeah.
You're
How
listening
many
to
more do you need?
169
I can handle that
right
math.
now. Yeah.
Well, technically,
Yeah. Can't handle 100.
two 69s and some remainders inside of that number.
We'll get to 269, I'm sure.
Yeah, our current rate, it'll take about 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
So look forward to that. You guys got games you play with hands?
Yep. With hands, yep.
Yeah, I've been playing games with hands.
That's good. Brain,
Great.
help.
Yeah.
Let's talk about them. What
Okay.
do you got? What do you got?
Well, I've been playing, so Starfield came out,
Mm-hmm.
and I've not been playing that.
Perfect.
Instead, I've
Uh-huh.
watched a few videos of it and thought, you know what? This game looks a lot like No Man's Sky.
Uh-huh.
And so I started playing No Man's Sky again.
Oh, no. You thought this isn't early access enough for me.
No, No
This
Man's
game is-
Sky. No Man's
hang on.
Sky is far from early access. It's been out for 7
Yeah.
years.
But Starfield, you said, oh, this game has come out. I'm not interested.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm really, I'm
If they
into
had
Star
if they had
Citizen.
a
is that-
beta, you'd be all over that.
Well, actually, I think if you bought that game,
Mm.
like paid for like some deluxe edition, you did get it early.
Yeah, but that's not how you operate. You pay a little bit less than the full retail price,
Yeah.
like a year or two or forever in
Or
advance.
More, yeah.
And you play it in its worst state.
And then you decide, I don't want to, I've had enough. I get that game.
Yeah. Let's find another one to roll
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, and then another will take my attention.
How many of them do you go back to like you have with No Man's Sky?
Look, No Man's Sky was never early access.
Yeah. It just
It was
felt like
early
released
access
in
when
the
it released, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but-
I pre-ordered No Man's Sky and I remember very well.
it felt early access.
It felt very early access.
Well, it doesn't feel early access anymore, and it hasn't for a long time. No Man's Sky is great, but I got into. They have they've been doing it for a little while now, but they have basically a version of our leagues that are
Oh, really?
that are just like you start up a new game and you select this expedition mode, and you start off in a different situation than normal. So I started off in a freighter, and every player starts off in the same place. So every player starts off like in this freighter with in the same solar system, and you have like a bunch of like expedition milestones to hit, which some of them you just naturally do from playing the game, but others are like you have to actually like go out and like specifically try to achieve them.
So
So-
they create a new starting point for you.
Yep.
Essentially, everyone's starting from the base, the same spot.
Pretty
same-
much. You also everyone's starting from the same spot, and you have more stuff than you would normally in the starting game.
Yeah.
Because you've played No Man's Sky in that early hour, haven't you?
No.
Really? Nothing I've
like big
said over
games.
the years has enticed you to play it.
No, all the times you're kept talking about how like I wish you could do this and I wish this was better, and no, somehow that never.
No, man.
I think probably it would appeal, but then it's essentially a survival game, right?
Yeah,
It's
it is.
collecting
It is
resources and
essentially a
building stuff.
survival game.
I cannot. I've tried so many times to get like into survival, and I just
Yeah.
can't. I hit a point when you're self-sufficient.
Yeah.
The game.
Like you can
becomes
hit
boring.
you can hit that point, I suppose, but it takes a long time to get there, and there's always like It is a game that I guess is like survival, where you do set your own goals, kind of
Mm.
thing. But in this mode, you have very clear goals, and it's a you're traveling along a set path is already laid out for you. A like a bunch of you have to meet up at a bunch of what are they called? Rendezvous points.
Okay.
Which are systems that are like ages away. So everyone is
So-
kind of traveling along the same path.
Yeah, I was going to ask: is everyone playing on the same seed?
Everyone's
So
playing on the
it's all
same
like,
seed,
and it's
yeah.
actually curated
Yep.
to be that story.
Yeah. And the
Interesting.
first system you pop into, all the stuff says like discovered by Hello Games, right? So it's been like crafted basically for this, and then out from there, it's just like everyone basically follows this same path along these rendezvous points, and there's like. I mean, you can just go straight there, kind of thing. But I've started like branching off into different systems because I'm looking for like specific things to hit these like milestones.
Yep.
And every milestone you get a reward for it, and it basically is a reward that just helps you. It'll give you like more upgrades, more abilities to like build things instead of like in the normal game you have to research those things and you have to.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get some of those things. These are just like, oh, you did this thing. Here's a reward that is like a major kind of like tech upgrade kind of thing.
Is there still a finish state to it?
There
Like
is
an end goal?
there is an end goal, which is when you hit the end of this like you reach the final rendezvous point and you've hit all the milestones for each sort of phase.
Yep.
So there's like I think there's like 5 phases, and each one has like six milestones, which are just some of them are like build a base, some of them are like land on a planet, some of them are just like
Okay.
harvest this thing, scan a creature with this kind of stats, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So I'm going through like doing all these milestones, getting the rewards for them. At the end, I don't know what you get at the end, but I do know that in your main game, if you like your rewards transfer over into being able to buy specific unique items from like a vendor. So in my main game, once I finish this, I'll have access to
You get like rewards for the time you put into the other thing.
yeah.
So I have a question.
Yep.
One of the sort of key defining characteristics of a PoE League is not just the like server reset; it's the new gameplay mechanic, right? What you described is essentially a curated progression path.
Mm-hmm.
Do they actually introduce new mechanics?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's what I-
No.
that's what I was worried about. So it's more just like we put a lot of work into this procedural generation, and we now realize no one's going to see any of it
Yeah.
unless we force them to.
And here's a more curated
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, it is pretty much that. And like here's a bunch of like cool rewards and cosmetic stuff and that sort of stuff for your main game.
Yeah,
as
but,
well.
But your main game, do you think you'll feel compelled to return to that after you do one of these leagues?
We'll
it feels
see.
to me like it's
We'll see, but because this is a very non-permanent thing. I'm not as invested in doing things like building bases and that
Sure.
sort of stuff. And the funny thing is, I've seen a bunch of bases because everyone starts in the same place. You just see people's bases all over the place, and some people have built like amazing stuff that I don't know what's going to happen to it once the end of this expedition is, because it's a timed event.
Yeah.
Just go away, right? That's
Maybe,
fine.
yeah.
I mean,
guess it does.
it's like a PoE League. You
Yeah.
you make your hideout. Your hideout migrate over to standard. But here's the reason I ask about like whether or not you'd go back to your main game is like I view it through the PoE lens, and very few players go and play standard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll just do the next expedition after that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, but it's I'm like enjoying it because it really does have that. Like I always said, right, that in No Man's Sky you had to kind of make your own goals. Like
Yeah.
there was the goal of getting to the center, but really, who cares?
Yeah.
Well put.
Yeah. And in my main game, I am trying to get to the center because I know that there's a lot of player like settlements and stuff in around the center. Like you can go online and actually find like the star map that shows like major like player hubs, and a lot of them around the center. And I basically just want to
for
head
the fixed
there.
seed that everyone's playing on. Okay.
Yeah. Well, for the for the actual main for the main game.
Is it? Oh, so is it the same seed as the main game? Because now I'm starting to remember. It's not like everyone has essentially the same seed. It's just procedurally generated universe, right?
Yeah. I don't know because you could just.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, I don't know. I
This.
assumed it was like a brand new seed,
Yeah.
but it was just everybody has the same one. So if you load up that save in,
But then how could there be player settlements in the middle?
no, this is I'm talking about in my main game, which is another like it's still the same seed.
Gotcha.
I'm saying that the expedition is another seed that is fresh for with this curated thing. Yeah.
Interesting. Now you're playing this instead of Starfield.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I looked at Starfield and I was like, there's some similarities there, and it has a lot of things that I just liked about No Man's Sky, where you just land on a planet and explore. And I could see that in Starfield. You land on a planet and you look out and you're like, look at this like world to explore. But I've not heard amazing things about Starfield, so I've decided to. Yeah.
And yeah, it seems like the initial consensus was like, "Boo, game bad," because people came at it with certain expectations, and then about a week later, it was like, "Yay, game great!"
Oh, okay.
Because people who were playing the game started to surface.
Oh, that's good.
Whether or not I haven't played it. Paul, have you played it?
No,
Do you have any interest in it?
Nah, not really. I watched a few of the early videos where people were highlighting some of the problems or some of the things they didn't like about it, and it put me off.
I have not been that interested in it, mostly because I saw gameplay.
Cool.
I mean,
what specific gameplay?
One of their first gameplay demos was like them landing near a base and then going inside and shooting a bunch of dudes. And the shooting just did not look fun.
Yeah, sure.
And then I don't care about building a ship. It had the same kind of. It looked like slightly souped up Oblivion in terms of animations and graphically. Obviously, it's all built on the same stuff.
Yeah, it is. So, it's still the same engine that they've used since Morrowind.
Gamebryo or whatever, right?
Yeah, so built on that. It's that at its core. It's Gamebryo.
And so it feels like it's falling behind the curve. They've been working on this thing for a really long time, and then it doesn't have the world building inherent in Elder Scrolls games, where it's got at this point we're 5 Elder Scrolls games deep, so there's decades of lore that's built upon itself. There's all these interesting characters. I think I generally prefer a fantasy setting over a sci-fi setting for role playing anyway. Because
I tend to agree. I think,
and I don't really know why that is now that I think about it.
I could go with either. I've enjoyed quite a few. Well, what's the big MMO one? Sci-fi
Destiny?
Yeah. I played a bunch of Destiny too, and I liked the environment. I do quite like the idea of sci-fi.
But Destiny's more I mean, I haven't played Destiny, so
I haven't in actually quite a while either. But
it's more MMO than RPG. In it when I talk about,
that's fair.
When I think about Elder Scrolls, I'm creating a character, I'm playing through a particular play style, I'm making decisions that impact the world permanently. And I think one of the issues with sci-fi is technology feels too loosey-goosey in a way. They swap magic with technology.
Yeah,
but it doesn't feel as cool.
Yeah. I mean, all sci-fi's run into this, right? Even Star Trek, where they reverse the polarity of the ion thrust or something, and you're like, what does that even mean? I don't know. They're just doing it. Doesn't mean anything.
Magic, at least, you kind of it branches out into questions like, what are the implications of this in the world? Whereas technology is everybody has access to this. I guess it's just kind of
Well, we've talked about magic systems being hard and loose, right?
Yeah.
I think, where it's like Harry Potter is the loosest magic of them all, where it's just you just say some stuff and some stuff happens.
I mean, D&D is pretty dang loose as well. Having played some Baldur's Gate,
Yeah.
you can get away with hijinks.
D&D, I've always wondered in the D&D world, how come everyone doesn't have magic? Why are they just like why are you a peasant?
There is lore around that.
Is there?
Yeah, so you should play more Baldur's Gate.
Oh, what?
So there's a thing called the Weave, and I don't know when.
Oh yeah, I know the Weave.
Yeah, so and certain characters are in contact with the Weave and the god of the Weave, Mistra, and like this. It's like
yes, but like, aren't wizards just educated? Like,
some of them
aren't they just educated into learning it? Like, that's how I thought. Well, I mean, I don't know. I've not read.
It's a bit of both. Like there are like prodigies who just are attuned to the Weave and like. And then they become educated because they're naturally good at it. And then there's people who really try hard at it and they can get some of the way there. This is in the lore anyway.
Yeah. I get it.
But then part of that is like, as a tabletop game, you can build that backstory yourself.
Yeah.
Are you naturally talented with it at it, or you trained for years?
Yeah.
So I think because of the nature of D&D as a storytelling tool, it's very loosey-goosey with magic as a system. Which is also fine.
Yeah.
I much prefer a loosey-goosey magic system than a loosey-goosey tech system, I think. Because I feel like there's a lot of internal inconsistencies with technology as a replacement.
A lot of sci-fi ends up... all the popular sci-fi, a lot of it ends up like Star Wars, Star Trek. They all are very loose with tech.
Yeah.
I mean, Star Wars especially.
I think about...
Can we just give a shout out to The Expanse for being like...
I was thinking
really,
of The
really
Expanse.
good about
It's the one that's not.
to my dad, who's probably listening, I'm very sorry. I still need to watch it.
Oh, man. You should just read the books. They're so good.
Yeah, they really are.
Or just listen to the books. They're so good.
Who has time?
Just put them in.
It's pretty easy to find time for audiobooks, right?
I guess if I'm not working on anything with language involved,
yeah,
which is rare.
You have the like I don't know. You probably do as well, Paul. Like you have a job that you can just like listen to stuff and not.
I can't listen to audiobooks while working because like writing code, it just ends up
like
too distracting.
Yeah.
But I will listen to audiobooks like while cleaning.
Yep.
While walking here. I was listening to a book. And just whenever I have time where I'm not really, I don't need to focus on what I'm doing really. I'll chuck on an audiobook. I also walk a lot.
That's good.
So it's a good way.
Here we go, bragging about your walking again. We get it. You're in great shape. Whatever, Paul.
I'm not really. That's why I'm walking more.
You've been playing. Did you want to talk about?
Not really. I just wanted to, basically just talk about that.
The fact that you're not playing Starfield.
In fact, I'm not playing Starfield, and the fact that like these timed expedition events are like really fun. It's what's really fun is seeing other players because that's a rarity normally in the normal game. It's so few and far between. Like I've seen probably out in the actual wild, like one person. And there is a hub town that you can go to and you just see people all over the place and you're like, oh, that's neat. But out in the wild, it's like I don't think I've ever stumbled across another player's base. I think I've only ever seen one player like once in the actual main game. And in this, there's just like you just see players all over the place. Their bases are just everywhere. And like this expedition path this route that you're following, you're like the game will give you like waypoints, basically the fastest route, and that's fine if you just want to get there. But if you want to go off to the sides to other systems because you're looking for specific things and you want to do specific stuff, you can just do that. And I've gone off the path like what I thought was a fair amount, and there's still player bases like everywhere. And like I've not.
That is a cool way to do it.
Can you interact with them?
Yeah, you can walk into them and like interact with all their stuff that's there.
Does that mean there's a lot more scarcity for the resources, or are those sort of?
Not really. There's so many resources. Like I don't. The scarcity in that game has never been a problem.
I remember when they introduced multiplayer, it was like you could see other players, and that was the extent of it.
Yeah.
You couldn't really interact with them.
Well, you can't. Well, actually, you can interact with them because when you go to transfer items from your ship to your, or to your freighter or whatever, it will pop up if there are other players in your system. There, like a link to their inventory will pop up, so you can transfer them stuff, but you have to be within range. Like it literally just comes up and it's grayed out that like this person is not within range. So you could just you can transfer stuff between. I've not interacted with a person other than just like walking by and waving.
I'm sure that there are people who will email and say, you big dumb idiots. Here, obviously you can do all these things, but I'm very curious what the balance of that.
There is PvP.
Okay.
Which I've specifically turned off.
Okay.
Because I don't want to get shot by
You just want to be near other players.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah. Well, also, I turned that off on the recommendation of a YouTube channel I watched because I looked into. I wanted to see what these expeditions were like, so I watched a bit of a YouTube channel talking about them, and they were suggesting, look, if this is like your first kind of time doing it, you might want to turn PvP off because in the past players have camped the starting location.
Of course.
PvP in survival games is always the worst version of PvP.
Have you ever played Rust?
I didn't play much Rust, but I played a bunch of that Ark game. With the dinosaurs.
That's just as bad. Yeah,
and oh man, you like log out and come back in, and
all your
things would be broken. And
oh my god.
Yeah, I played V Rising.
Oh
there was timed PvP in that game, as I understand it. Like there are specific windows of time on specific days where PvP is essentially enabled, or at least like castle warfare is enabled, and even that does not really interest me. I don't want to worry about other players wrecking my stuff.
No, because it's like all the game is building stuff and collecting stuff, and you put so much time into
the time investment is asymmetrical, completely asymmetrical. It's like 200 hours to build your castle, 15 minutes to knock it down.
Yeah.
Sorry, go start a new server. Bye. It's like, oh boy.
There was, I think on Ark, I might be wrong about this, but I'm sure on Ark there was server settings where you could have if you had logged off, your building is indestructible for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, there was something like that, but the game wasn't solid enough to properly protect things. From what I remember, anyway.
Yeah. It was fun when players were offline because me and my friends would raid.
Yeah.
We were the people that made people not want to play PvP.
Yeah. We had a great time. We fully raided this guy and had a caravan of dinosaurs going back and forth, just taking like packs and packs of their stuff. And then the same thing happened to us, and we were like, well, what goes around comes around.
V Rising has a timed thing where if you wait too long, your castle falls apart, right?
Oh, okay.
Because you have to keep it charged with blood.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it just breaks.
Yeah. And
sometimes you'll stumble across someone who got very far in the game.
Oh yeah.
And then just bailed, and everything's for the taking.
I like that though, because it feels like you're coming across a ruined, an actual ruin in real.
I wish it felt like that. What it actually feels like is a bunch of chests.
Ah.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of chests and a bunch of stuff on the ground.
I remember playing Ark, and we joined a server. I don't know how long it had been running, quite a while, I guess, but there were definitely half ruined bases all over the place, and you'd just be going along, and you'd feel like you've stumbled into some ruin, and then you'd go in there and maybe you'd find something that's not been looted. I really like that feeling.
It makes me want a survival game that had fairly quick turnarounds on server resets, where the existing state of the server at the end of the last reset became the ruins for the next reset.
That's would be a cool idea.
Essentially, you are building a dungeon for the future.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Really
cool. Yeah, because as Blake was talking about, they're going through the ruins thing. It's a shame no one sets their base up with caverns and things and hidden things and secrets and why would you do that unless you had that sort of setup where you knew there was going to be a reset coming and you were leaving something.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool, especially because if it's this exists for the first player to find it on the server, you're building that with defenses because you want to be the first person
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
there.
of course.
And then you want to be able to know where those defenses are. And I
Yeah.
think that would be a really interesting dynamic.
I love that.
Don't steal that. It's my idea. Copyright. Copyright my idea. Paul, you've been playing PoE.
Yeah, I've been playing PoE again.
How's that?
I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot.
What character are you playing?
So you know how last time I was playing Summon Raging Spirits?
Yeah.
I'm doing that again. I'm not really I don't like doing the whole like find whatever the meta build is and
You found your meta build.
Yeah.
And you like it.
I just keep playing it and I have a lot of fun, so.
Do you change it up at all? Like do you do anything interesting to differentiate from the last build?
Yeah, so this time the Ascendancy I'm playing is Guardian. And there were big changes to like how Guardian works in general. So I had to change some things. And it's kind of if you play the same build every league, you need to change things based off what you find and what you can do. Because I also play on console, which has a way smaller economy.
And Summoning Raging Spirits is much better on console than some other builds, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I play it is because I don't have to focus too much on targeting.
Yeah.
Although a lot of the targeting stuff is fine. Like I'm playing with Stacy, who's playing Lightning Arrow, and she's just shooting arrows everywhere at this point. So,
but I imagine like Flame Blast, for example, or
I wouldn't want to. Yeah.
So what's your twist this season? What gear? Like what's your build defining unique at the moment?
There isn't really a build. The build defining unique is kind of the same one as last time because there's a chest piece that gives your minions chaos resistance, and while they have that gives them energy shield. And while they have energy shield, they ignore enemies' elemental resistances, which is just very
strong.
Good. Yeah.
And then you run all of the auras, I assume.
So this is one of the things with the Guardian change is that when your minions or a party member attacks or kills, I can't remember the specifics, enemies, it summons these sentinels, and there's 3 of them that you can get.
Yeah.
Each hit has a chance to summon one of them, and they are level 27 auras.
Oh!
So it's like they're 27 because you can't scale them any other way.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can't run any of the blessings or anything to and you can't scale through any aura increase.
Yeah.
So they're level 27 to compensate for some of that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, level scaling is like one of the best ways to increase those anyway. So
yeah.
Then are you also running any auras on yourself?
Yeah, but just really defensive ones. So
haste or...
determination for armor and haste.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sounds like a fun build.
It's very fun. It's nowhere near the amount of damage you get out of some other builds and stuff, but it's very tanky and it's fun to play.
Very safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how you succeed in PoE in my experience, is you play safe.
Yep. Because if you're dying all the time, it just gets frustrating.
Yes. Why do you play on console as opposed to PC?
Because I work at a PC all day.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I relax as much when I'm playing games on PC.
Yeah, you want to hunch in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I want to lie down and wiggle only my thumbs.
You want to slouch it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just to balance it up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
I've done my upright seating time. Now I want to do lie down seating time.
Of course. That makes a lot of sense to me. Now, I have a question for both of you, and that is, why have neither of you been playing Baldur's Gate 3?
I have been playing Baldur's Gate 3, although I haven't played since last weekend.
Because of No Man's Sky.
Because of No Man's Sky. And
do you regret that decision? Because I think you should.
The problem is, I like both of them.
That is a problem.
Well,
I guess No Man's Sky is a timed event, so I'll let it.
In fact, that's my answer as well. It's that it's a new league, and the league is exciting at the start, whereas Baldur's Gate's going to be the same when I go back to it.
It's true, but
Baldur's Gate. How do you feel about this, Paul? Because I think we talked about this before.
Oh yeah, we did.
About how when you go to play Baldur's Gate, well, at least for me, when I want to play Baldur's Gate, I feel like I need the entire afternoon or day clear.
Okay.
And I don't want to play it for an hour after work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to play it for 8 hours after work.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't work out on a weekday. But it does work out on the weekend. So I'm kind of thinking Baldur's Gate is my like weekend game, and No Man's Sky is my weekday game.
I'm gonna throw something out at you, Blake.
Yeah.
I think you've spread yourself too thin with Baldur's Gate. How many games do you have on the go
Just 2.
in Baldur's Gate?
You mean? Oh, right. You mean? 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the issue. Is that it's a weekend game because that's the time you allotted for your other game.
When I said I played last weekend was like one day was my game. The second day was our multiplayer game.
Yeah, I feel like that's where you've boxed yourself in a bit.
Yeah.
I reckon you could 2 hours in the evening of Baldur's Gate is great. That's like
I have
that's a substantial piece of story content.
I have played it after work, but I just it just feels like I want to keep playing it after work.
Yeah.
And then
The last place I stopped playing, I'm about 2 hours deep into a dungeon.
Which dungeon?
We talked about it last
The
time.
goblins.
Nah, it's Shah's something. Shah's
is it the
temple?
Grimforge? Is that what it's called?
Grim. There's what you
Grimford?
both said two different things, and they both exist. So I don't want to get in this because I don't want to spoil for either of you.
It's in the Underdark, right?
Uh-oh.
I don't think so. I think it was after that.
It's after that.
I don't. The thing
What?
is,
Where are you at?
Let me ask you: Is it
Early
is
Act
it
2.
through a crypt?
Oh, okay. I'm not there then.
through a crypt?
Did you go through a mausoleum?
Man, I don't even remember.
Oh,
So that's
boy.
the problem is, I was playing this when
boy.
I had COVID, right?
Oh yeah.
And,
no.
and like now I've got to.
You're gonna go back
All
and
I
you're like-
remember is I was 2 hours deep in this dungeon that I was
no.
lost in.
Why was I making these decisions? How did I end up with this?
You need to get COVID again so you remember what
You get back into that
Yeah.
state.
That game is fantastic. That's all I'm gonna say. I am, I would say fairly deep into Act 3.
Oh,
At
wow.
this point, and it is so.
I have just popped into Act 2. And it's very unceremonial going between acts.
Yeah. Oh, so actually, you say that,
Yeah?
and I agree to an extent.
Yeah.
But I think you have to view it as, I think what you're picturing is
Diablo style, where it's like, here's
the act boss, and then there's a portal
Yeah,
at the end
yeah,
you walk
yeah.
through. But when you consider the events that essentially open up the path to the next act,
I get it, but then why even bother having the Steam achievement that says you've done Act 1?
so that you know.
Why not
I
just
guess?
say you've done? Why not just do that for every map that you're in? Why not be like, hey, congratulations, you did the river,
The goblin
thing. You
camp or
did the
whatever.
goblin stuff,
Yeah.
you did the Underdark.
They
you know.
have some of those things as well, though.
It does, and then it also has congratulations, you did Act 1. I
I'm
was
never
like, did
gonna
I?
say no to more achievements. Like, I mean,
The place that I was down in,
yeah.
there was a like light puzzle at the start.
Light puzzle.
Yeah, with lamps.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't
yes,
know this.
Yes,
I don't know this.
Is it Shah's temple?
Yes.
Is this
Yeah.
Act 2 then?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, you got some fun, interesting stuff.
There's
ahead.
so much going
There's
on.
so much going on. And who's in your party?
Shadow something.
Shadowheart.
Astarion
Okay. Yep.
and Gale.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So Shadowheart, being a cleric of
Yeah.
Shar, is having a time in there, I'm sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Boy, this game is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing it does very well is give you impossible choices. And they're all
Yeah,
over,
I've had a few of those.
they're all over the place, and
Yeah.
they are impressive in their in their far-reachingness for the story.
Oh no, there was definitely like a weird one that came up, and I was really conflicted about how to approach it until I was like, you know what, this is my game. I'm gonna just do
I'm
this,
very
Yeah.
curious,
and I'm
what it
gonna
was.
see.
Blake, cover your ears if you don't know.
Do you want me to walk out of the room?
Yeah, actually, this is now just Paul and I having a conversation.
Should I actually? Because I don't want to get spoiled.
No, we'll have a chat after.
All right.
Yeah.
and anyway, that game is so great.
I could talk about so there was a boss fight that we've all done then. Must have been, because it was in the, it was
on the choices.
Maybe.
Go ahead.
Maybe.
That's it.
So a little bit of spoiler for a boss fight in the Underdark. You go to that Grimford place.
Yes.
And there is a if you read a bunch of text, it talks about like a big golem that is like weak to a fiery hammer.
Yep.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, so I guess there's going to be a big fire golem or something. And then you encounter this thing. And during the fight, like I was unprepared for that boss fight. I needed a long rest. So I came into it like real, like my sorcerer had like no spell slots left.
Yeah.
Everyone was on like half life, quarter life, that kind of thing.
Game, but go on.
And the whole thing was, I thought that I would at some point find a big fiery hammer that I could use as a weapon. And then during this whole fight, I'm like, I was damaging it, and then I was not able to damage it anymore. And I was like, what is going on? And I realized that it targets the last thing that damaged it. So I was like, okay, I'll just kite it around and try to figure out what's going on here. And I was like, all right, I like inspected it as well, which like, you know, and it said something.
Getting desperate.
Yeah. And it had a clue of like, it had a clue that like, I can't remember what it said, but it had a clue that if the metal is heated up, it becomes more malleable. And I was like, I'll turn on this lava, because the lava was at the start of the fight, and and I was like, so that's why I was able to damage it. So okay, cool. So I did that, and then I was like, well, what can I do now? I can't walk in the lava, and I'm just like kiting this thing around because there's these like safe zones that are basically islands in this lava.
Yep.
Then I realized there's a switch off to the side, which I had pulled to begin with, but basically started the boss fight where this big old like slab, very hammer-like, comes down. And I was like, wait a minute. I think I've got it. And, like, I figured it out that, like, I kited the guy towards the middle, had him, like, glowing from the lava, and then hit him a few times with this hammer. And it was, like, the best fight I've ever had, because it took me, like, figuring it out during the battle.
Combat.
When the battle, I came in unprepared already.
You managed to squeak through, huh?
Yeah, I managed to
How
squeak
did you
through.
survive that long? Because he hit one of my dudes and it just like killed them.
That's a very hard fight. Congrats.
The last move I did was like I had to use like Misty Step to get over to the switch.
Yeah.
And then like managed to pull it, but I just kept kiting him with like arrows and stuff. I ended up like very quickly realizing melee is not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So I basically disengaged everyone and fled all over the place and just lobbed arrows and whatever at them, and to make them walk around. And once I realized that, they just target the thing that hit them last, I was basically maneuvering it so I'd hit him, his next turn he'd target, and it would be like he wouldn't actually be able to get to that character because he's very slow. And so he'd just walk and then be like, great, cool. And then I'll kite him to somebody else. Like, I just managed to control him enough, you know.
That's
very clever.
Impressive.
Yeah.
I really struggled with
hard fight.
trying to get him to stop in the right place. Because I had 4 dudes like in each corner. And I would try and like bait him towards whatever the furthest one away was. But it was just very hard to coordinate to get him to stop in the right place. And if he didn't, he could usually reach one of the other people on the next turn. And aggro would just change and he'd go off there.
There were times when it was like, okay, I've got, it would be like, say, Exile, and she does an arrow, and then she's the target. And then other characters are closer to him, but I just didn't do anything. I just skipped their turn.
Yeah.
You know, so the aggro stayed on her, and then he'd walk towards
her.
But
it fades, right? It fades after a turn, the aggro thing.
I don't know.
I don't remember how it works.
The only time I've seen it not target the thing that that first attacked was that he had he killed the person that aggroed him, and then by his next turn I hadn't aggroed him, so he just targeted the next
Yep.
closest, or he just started walking. He just started walking towards the next closest.
He has an AOE skill as well.
Yeah.
Which, if your dudes are grouped as bad dudes.
Yeah. But it was also like, I people did go down in it, but I was like constantly trying to get them back up.
Right.
You know.
I just reloaded this last save if someone died.
Yeah, I think I did that fight several times to finally win.
Yeah, it took me a few guys.
And I didn't do what you did.
Yeah.
I just had him stand on the lava and hit him with a hammer myself.
Oh no!
Oh really?
Yeah.
No, I
Well, that's what
totally
I
used the
started
forge
doing.
thing.
Was like, this is terrible. I'm not gonna survive this.
You can run the lava repeatedly.
Yeah.
And he's vulnerable to blunt weapons.
Yeah.
So I just had my two fighters
Just wail on them.
wail on him.
Nice.
And I did it in a couple turns.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Holy
but that was
what?
after several attempts. So I think it's really impressive what you did. 'cause
Wow.
I had neither the mental wherewithal or the patience to do what you did.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the first time it was such a trial and error because
Yeah.
when I realized about the hammer, I hadn't realized about the lava.
Mm-hmm.
So I got him in the middle, hit him with the hammer, and it like stunned him for a while. And I was like, okay, maybe I can hit him now.
But it
Still
does like
couldn't
no
hurt him.
damage when
Yeah, it
it's,
still does no damage. And I was like, what the hell?
yeah.
And that's when I like inspected him, and it says it gives you a clue basically that like
Yeah. Okay.
if it's heated, the metal is like weak.
I ended up going back to, like, in the Underdark, there's like a dude in a camp who's like lost his mind, and he has a clue to how to use the forge there, and he's like trying to write spells, and one of the spells just is going hot hammer, hot hammer, hot hammer.
Yeah.
And I went.
I had that written
was-
on a piece of paper I found.
Yeah.
That was after the fact, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that's why I thought, at some point I'm gonna find a big, great hammer that's like a fiery great hammer.
That's what I was expecting as well.
That guy also had a piece of an ice staff.
Oh.
Like, I found two pieces of a weapon in the Underdark. Like, it was like ice shaft and ice crystal or something.
Yeah, I
like that.
found those.
And I could never find the third one, and I'm pretty sure I bugged it out. So, I think after doing some Googling, there's a spectator. For legal reasons, we're calling it a spectator, not a beholder.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's actually just a beholder. But and there's like some dudes turned to stone, right? And I think one of those dudes that are turned to stone might have.
We gotta smash every dude. Or
what
something
I did I didn't know. I stumbled across this dude who was turned to stone, and I had a basilisk flask.
Oh,
and I was like, "Oh, let's unstone him," and I unstoned him, and then this fight started.
Yeah,
and I beat this guy, and
same
I'm
thing
sure
happened
I
to
ran
me.
off.
Yeah.
Possibly with the staff piece. So I never got that item.
I might have that staff piece, but not the other two. Because I did have something in my inventory that I was like some sort of ice shard thing that I'm like, this doesn't look like an ingredient for anything.
No,
I don't know what.
But if you click on it, it gives you an option to combine it with two other things.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
There's lots of cool little interactions with that, like that.
Yeah, I found a few things that combined. Nothing super interesting yet, but definitely like new weapons that could have been cool.
I mean, the forge itself is an example of that, right? You put in a mold and some mithril.
You can keep
I like that
doing
whole
it
process.
It's not just a one-off.
I've only found 2 pieces of mithril.
Oh, I found like 3.
What?
Yeah, I think
There's
I found
like
3 as well.
mithril, mining chunks around the place.
I found one inside of next to the forge area.
Okay.
And
Going down through all the fiery stuff and
and then
and you find that weird it's like a ring or something that starts talking to you.
Oh, the amulet.
Oh
yeah, amulet
that tries to make you laugh to death.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, man, there's just so much cool stuff in that. Here's the thing. Now, this is why I want to talk about Baldur's Gate after talking about Starfield. Is these are 2 games with entirely different emphasis on their scope, and it's why I'm not. It's another reason I'm not that interested in Starfield. With every successive Bethesda game, they try to get larger, and they try to find ways to generate filler content.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Baldur's Gate kind of has done the opposite. Like, that game world feels huge, but when you actually look at the map, it's not big. It's just dense. but they put so much work into the denseness of it. It's multi-layered, multifaceted, and it makes you want to replay. The choices matter so much that it feels like a much more enriching experience. And when I look at Starfield, it's like, oh, cool. There's 1,000 planets, and there's probably a good number of dungeons they've made to populate those planets, and you're going to see them over and over and over again. You're not going to have any control over what dungeons you end up seeing.
So someone was telling me who has been playing it at work that they've landed on a dozen planets and just seen repeated assets constantly.
Yep.
And like for that, I mean, surely you'd have more interesting stuff for a dozen planets. That's not.
I had been hearing that, like, in the main quest, that people, as part of the main quest, were seeing repeated dungeons, like repeated encounters, and that's just like a bummer.
Yeah, it's one of my least favorite things for sure.
Like, on the main quest, you could at least put some control in there, right?
Like,
yeah.
And so that's, I just wanted to bring it back to Baldur's Gate because it's sort of the opposite. They've taken a completely different approach in terms of scale and scope. They focus on depth as opposed to breadth, and I think that's the better way to go ultimately.
It really is. It's a game that rewards you a lot for exploration.
Yes,
because you'll find some crazy, you'll find withers, you'll find like a crazy artifact, and it rewards you for reading stuff and actually following clues because the quest log doesn't explain things most of the time.
Yeah, it
like the hot hammer thing.
The hot hammer thing.
Yeah,
it harkens back to an earlier Bethesda game, Morrowind.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah.
Where you would not make it through that game if you didn't read.
Yeah.
And that game also had a lot of content, and it was like kind of a large landmass. And it was kind of empty in spots, but it was all bespoke content. There was no like filler.
Man, Morrowind. None of their games since Morrowind had that same vibe to me. Like Morrowind just to me felt it expanded my mind on what a game could be.
Yeah,
and it hit a like exploration itch that I had that I didn't know I had. And like Oblivion didn't. Yeah, and Oblivion didn't do that, and Skyrim didn't do that for me. And I think a huge part of why
I know why it is
the fog of war on the map.
Oh no!
Why? What are you gonna say?
Levitation.
Well, I mean, sure, but that's also. I mean, that's
Like you make a great point. The fog of war, even though the map doesn't change,
no, but
it's a visual indicator of your progress.
Yeah, and they say like you that first quest that's like, okay, go to this town.
Yeah,
and you look on the map and you're like, I see nothing.
Yeah.
And then you see a signpost that says this town is that way.
Or
and you just start walking, and then you see that Strider thing.
And you Strider.
Yeah, and you're like,
so
oh,
cool.
What's this thing? And you're like, oh, it's a mass transport system.
Yeah.
I could use that. I don't have the money. I guess I'll just walk down this road. And because of the fog of war, and also because of the view distance limitation, you don't know what's ahead of you.
It was so much more alien than any of the Bethesda games that have come after it, including the game that I assume has aliens in it. Like the fact that there was a silt strider as the mass transport, and those giant mushroom trees. Like everyone speaks, they're calling you Unwa, and like there's just so much. You feel transported in a way that no other game has managed to do because they rely on real world analogs for Oblivion and Skyrim.
How long ago did you play Morrowind?
I probably first played it in like 2005.
I mean,
6.
The most recent time.
It's been a while. I did try to play it again, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, and it was like, this is hard to play.
Yeah,
because they game systems. I think the thing that has fallen behind most in it is game systems and usability. Like menus are like floating windows. They have a whole weird accuracy mechanic. If you haven't turned it off, like the way combat works is the swing type you do is based on the mouse movement you are using.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh right.
Like you have to like do an arcing swing to do a slash and things, which is
shield block was also just by chance.
Yep.
Like, you couldn't just hold your shield up like you
Yeah.
can in the other games. It was just like you had a chance to block. And
Yeah.
then sometimes your shield would come up and block an attack.
Yeah, and enchanted weapons had like specific amount of charge, and then you had to
Yeah.
use a soul gem that got consumed to recharge them.
Mm.
There's like lots of game systems that are pretty archaic by today's standards, but there are still elements of that game's world building. And
I mean, people love it
I was,
so much.
I was just curious how much of the sort of immersion and exploration side of it held up.
It's a really good question.
Because, yeah, just when it came out, it was obviously, like, insane. I didn't play it that much. I died too much and was just like, I don't understand this game. And because I think I also checked it out in, like, 2005. And I hadn't played anything like it.
I think it's interesting remembering that this is also the sort of the same era as World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
So like games had big worlds back then, and there was lots of world building and exploration. I couldn't put any specific reason on why Morrowind held such a grip for me beyond like how little it cared about the player's personal experience beyond like letting them go and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a great part of why I'm really enjoying Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you can totally screw over your playthrough. It'll still work. Like you might have a good time, or you might not. Like you may lose all of your playable characters, and it'll still work.
Yeah.
You can completely ignore the quest. I have a really strong feeling that if I were to get off of the Nautiloid and just make a beeline for like the mountain pass, I could probably do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the game would still work.
Yeah.
You can literally find the mountain pass before you even go into the goblin camp.
Yep. Exactly.
There's
like a place right next to the goblin camp.
Yeah, right next to the goblin
bail.
camp, and you can just go through there.
You can just go through the Underdark.
Yeah.
So like I suspect there's lots of things that the game will just allow you to do. And you might have a really hard playthrough, and that's fine. It doesn't treat you like a baby. It doesn't level the characters down in certain areas.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, what I realized when Withers comes to your camp,
Yeah.
and he tells you you can hire. He's got hirelings.
Yeah.
That's when I realized, like, oh, you can like
kill everybody.
wreck your game so much that you have to hire these just like random NPCs to fill out your party.
Yeah.
Speaking of Withers, do you still have him around?
Yeah. Interesting.
Wait,
I'm
what?
Very curious. We'll have a chat off after this. I'm very curious.
Speaking of ruining playthroughs.
That's why I think, I can't remember if I said it in the last podcast, but that's why I think the devil guy is like your safety net. Like I just feel like
Lucian. No. Raphael.
Yeah,
Raphael.
yeah. I think that no matter how badly you wreck your game, he's gonna be the one that always will help you in the end in some way.
I will say nothing.
Okay, we'll see.
I really want you guys to play more Baldur's Gate.
Yep.
So that I can talk more openly about all of the cool things. And also, listeners, you should do the same so that I don't spoil everything for you. We're almost out of time. I just want to read out some of the comments. These are from a while ago. These are 3 people who want to know, just want me to talk about Tears of the Kingdom a bunch. If you want me to talk about Tears of the Kingdom, please email us or leave a comment asking specifically, like, what do you want to hear? If there's like any feature, because I love talking about Tears of the Kingdom. I beat it. So
we haven't talked about it since.
There was a long time between.
It was a long time between podcasts, so we missed out on a lot of all that time. Would have otherwise been spent talking about Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, there are some things I don't like about that game, and
I want to hear about that
right now because there's not time.
Next podcast. Next podcast, it'll be why everything 10 reasons why Zelda sucks.
If I can come up with 10, that's going to be a surprise. Someone else was asking if they want to hear our thoughts about D4 now that it's out in full and there's a couple seasons announced. I haven't actually played D4.
I haven't played the new season.
I haven't checked out any of the new season. I think I mentioned this last time. I really enjoyed the campaign.
Yeah.
But when it got to endgame, it just got very, very dead, very, very fast.
This seems to be like the common thread of what I've heard about that
game. Yeah, and
like, great campaign, and then I didn't care to play anymore.
Yep. And I tried. None of the. I've watched a few. I watched one of the preview things for the season. I know they did fix some of the stuff I didn't like. The whole like Altars of Lilith thing, where it was just little things you got to go around and find, and that was super tedious.
Yeah.
So I just gave up doing that. I think they got rid of those entirely.
Okay.
But it didn't seem super exciting to me. The one I saw, I can't remember if it was season 1 or season 2, was you kill a rare enemy and then it like resurrects as a stronger rare enemy, and then you get to kill it again for like some kind of reward. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I just so badly don't want to do that.
Why not? You don't want to do the same thing twice in a row?
Well, the rares in that game were like slow to kill anyway, and it wasn't like engaging. It was just they were quite tanky.
Right. Okay. It's not like you're dancing around their skills or anything.
No, it's just you rotate cooldowns.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of criticism about the combat system in general as well, just around the use of cooldowns as the limiting factor.
Yeah.
And the reliance on auto attack.
I think just the story though is quite good. There were a couple of weak acts, but I still feel like I got my money out of it.
Yeah.
You know, like I had a lot of fun playing through the campaign. Nice environments, fun world, just...
Do you think you'd come back in like a year or...
Depends on what they do.
Yeah.
If they overhaul like a bunch of skills and things and have enough depth for me to like actually play around, and I also had the experience of started playing. I figured out a build in closed beta I wanted to play because I had the early access weekend. Found a build I really liked. On launch, started playing that build. It got super popular because some guy made a video about it like the day before.
Oh, no.
And then a week into the launch, they nerfed it.
Oh man!
What was the build?
It was just a reflect, bleed, cyclone, whirlwind.
Okay.
And I was super surprised in closed beta that like reflect was a viable means of damage.
That's cool.
I was so excited.
No,
it came out and then like they just nerfed the shit out of it.
Is reflect? I remember they did like a reflect build in D3, and we kind of, I remember on PoE trying to sort of find a way to make reflect work.
Yeah.
Is it a fun build? Because here's my impression: trying to make something like that work is it's inherently passive.
So there were a lot of like taunts. So you had to jump right in the middle,
like
taunt, and then cyclone, and yeah. And they would hit themselves very, very hard.
Sure, but is that more active than using? I mean, I think it just feels much less active than using the skills themselves. Like that taunt could be something that stuns or something that deals damage.
It could. I was also playing with Stacy, so I liked the whole idea of like I'm gonna be tanking and dealing damage through reflect while she stands back.
Gotcha. You're thinking about the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That combination like felt like a really fun idea of how to play the game.
But if there wasn't reflect there,
then you're just a tank, which, like, sure, but then you're relying on someone else to deal with the damage.
Yeah.
Feels to me more passive
interesting.
than having something where you're like doing reflect and bleed, and you know you've got like at least a build around how you're going in tanking.
So I guess in my head, the way I would make that work, I mean we're out of time at this point, but I would want to build a skill that saved the damage you're taking and dealt it back out, so it was more player engaged.
Yeah, that would be fun too.
Like you're taunting, you're taking the damage, and it's up to you as to when you and how you release the damage you're absorbing. Because it is essentially reflect in a more player autonomous way.
Yeah, this was just you'd pick up a bunch of reflect, and then there was another war cry you could do that would one of the passives you could allocate would just make them deal crazy damage to themselves.
Yeah.
So then you would just end up instead with just like a cooldown based thing. Whereas actually having it based off how much damage you're taking does sound way more fun.
Cool. All right. Good to know. If I ever have an opportunity to do that. Anyway.
But they're nerf, so is that just not a viable thing anymore? Or is it just your, what you said, a tank, and now Stacey's doing
No,
it
was
busted.
just... Yeah, it was less damage.
Right.
But I just spent like a bunch of time leveling my character based off what I'd seen and planned. And
well, on that note, email frontseatquestions@gmail.com. Tell us your favorite D4 build, and also what your favorite moment in Baldur's Gate 3 is. Make sure it's not highlighted as a spoiler and email it directly to Blake.
Oh my god. You're like, oh my god, I can't believe at the end of the game.
Tell us what you want to hear about Zelda or any other game. We love hearing from you. So keep it up.
We had lots of great comments on the last episode.
Thank you very much.
So
I had a look at those as well.
Yeah, it's great. Did you see there was someone who, a fan who was at ExileCon, and I noticed them because they're wearing a toucan.
Slippery Jim, right?
Yeah.
Slippery Jim is also you call him just a fan. He's also kind of a legend in the PoE community. He was doing like these insane grinding runs. Like he was doing like 5,000 runs of aqueducts and videoing it. And
oh my god.
This is from years ago, but he's like,
oh wow.
He is in his own right a good content creator.
Well, he's awesome, and that toucan hat was awesome.
I missed it.
I pointed him out to someone who was standing next to me, like, "Oh my god, look at that! It's so awesome." But I wonder if maybe whenever we do the next one, we should actually organize a fan meetup.
Yeah, we did for the
we did for the first one, but I was just like so swamped with work, I couldn't think of anything else.
We had stopped podcasting 2 months
prior,
so it would have been a hard one to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. See you in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably.
Bye.
Oh, did you guys see the Unity stuff?
Yeah.
That's so insane. What the fuck are they thinking?
I don't know. They rolled back a lot of the worst of it, but it's still not good.
But the fact that
why did they go public with it in the first place? Like,
I don't know.
Like, I don't know how much they rolled back, but if it is,
they rolled back the demo stuff, and because before it was like any install, no matter what. So now it's 20 cents per not per install, but not for demos. It's not paid by the developer if it's an online through like one of the PS Plus or Game Pass things.
Right.
But now it's supposed to be Microsoft that pays or Sony that pays.
Yeah, I saw that they said that the three big game publishers had agreed to pay those costs.
Have they agreed?
That's what they said.
Okay.
But none of those three publishers had come out with anything. That's what Unity was saying.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It's one of the dumbest things I've seen.
Imagine like PoE was on Unity.
Yeah.
And you loved PoE and they do a bad patch. And you're pissed off with them.
Mm-hmm.
You can start actively costing the company money by just installing and uninstalling the client. You could build a bot farm that does this and put them out of business.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
I heard for web-based games, like games in Unity that are on a website, that wouldn't have an install, right? But they charge when the game loads on that page. It counts as a charge.
That's insane.
This is also completely working around the fact that avoiding the fact that they need to track an install somehow.
Yeah.
And that install is going to probably be just some kind of request
to a server
from a client, and you can't hide things in clients.
You could just spoof it.
You can't ever hide things properly in clients. It's just straight up not possible.
So you could just
to a
spoof
server.
It. Holy shit.
So you can
just pack it, like just send
just use
packet flood.
fucking Wireshark. Look at what it's sending, and like it surely can't take that long for someone to figure that shit out. People do it for fucking making items in games and shit.
It's like and they said they're going to do it retroactively. That's like the biggest dickhole move of all. It's like
you can't like just not upgrade Unity or whatever. It's the license just flips over to the new one on 1st of January.
There was a developer. I don't remember who it was, but there's a developer on Twitter that said that they would owe $5 million to Unity because of that. Which they obviously don't have.
So, Hearthstone's made in Unity.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Wow. Well,
you think about like how many fucking installs that's
hundreds of millions.
That's yeah.
Like they're probably saying this is our big payday. Here's my prediction. Before that, unless they completely roll back this shit, I predict you will see thousands of games taken off the store. So installs cannot continue.
The Cult of the Lamb guy. Did you see the tweet?
Yeah, they tweeted that it was not going to be available. They did send a follow-up message in Discord saying that it probably still will be available. But they did say that if it goes ahead, they're going to completely pivot on the next game.
Yeah. Like I would imagine almost every studio that is currently developing
Unity. It is the only sensible thing you could do.
Yeah.
And when the fucking competition is like Unreal.
Yeah.
And Unreal
there's a better engine and they're not doing this?
Yeah.
Whoa, let me think about this.
And Unreal's like bad if you're making like they're from what I heard anyway, their licenses like suck a bit if you're making shitloads of money.
Yeah.
But like if you're already making shitloads of money,
then who cares?
Fucking
Well, the Unity one is in reverse. If you're not making shitloads of money but you've got high installs, that's when you're fucked.
Now it only kicks in after a certain value, but then it's not restricted to like a portion of the value after that point. It seems crazy. It just seems like, we're gonna bankrupt a bunch of people. Is that cool with you guys? Like,
what's interesting too that you heard the CEO sold a bunch of shares like a few days before this announcement.
Wait, really?
Yeah, this is what I've heard.
A few of the top people have been selling shares. It's all on like Nasdaq.com because I saw the post and I was like, surely this could be like some donk.
So what is their? Is this like a dump and pump? Is this the opposite of a pump and dump? Like where they sell all their shares, then put out a fucking terrible policy, let the price plummet,
and then
buy it back?
I don't know.
And then reverse the policy.
Maybe what's his name? Like Riccardo or whatever.
John Riccitello.
Yeah, that guy. He sold in total. Not just immediately, recently, but like over the last... Shit, I don't remember. It was like $1.8 million worth of shares.
Well, I'd be curious what what that is of his total holding. Because like...
I don't know. Unity does the whole vested shares shit.
Yeah.
You can see what the total is. And that shit is all public as well.
Yeah. Because I can see... that can just be a part of, especially if you're a shareholder in a company, you can have you essentially are required to have scheduled sell-offs. If you're going to sell your shares, they have to be scheduled in advance.
Right.
So like it's not suspect until I understand what that is as a proportion of his holdings, and like, does he cease those sell-offs? Like those sorts of things are curious. But I'd be curious about.
I did find a funny thing about it too, where there was some indie game. Because it's the same guy that worked for EA.
Yeah.
When this other indie game was underneath them, and they got screwed so badly, they made him the main antagonist in the following 2 games.
Oh my god!
They made.
Yeah, he's a real piece of shit. he was worse than the current EA CEO. If that gives you any.
Yeah.
Any, I guess Activision is the shitty one. Bobby Kotick.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Really strange.
Also, like, people are learning Unity in schools, right?
Yeah. It's
baffling.
It's like one of the big engines, really. But it is always.
Oh yeah.
It is often like the indie engine.
And what's the thing? I remember they were trying to get. I was at IGN and they had just essentially gone public with the engine. Like they not like in a shareholder sense.
Yeah.
In like we're now going to start pushing this.
Yep.
more broadly, they're going to game companies being like, it's now free. Anybody can build things on it. That was when I was at IGN. I remember them coming to the studio or to the offices, and like that was like a cool thing. And they're like, yeah, and we'll have like an asset store where people can like build assets and then sell them, and they can actually make money doing this. And it was like, this is cool. This is innovative. You're like opening up development to a bunch of people.
Yep.
This is doing like the
opposite.
It's like
exact opposite.
Oh, you selling assets? No. We're gonna take money from your installs.
Yeah, it's nuts.
This is so. It's so
The
weird.
The thing I remember too is like back then when you're saying that they were just coming out. I remember Unreal was like.
You had to pay $1 million for a basic license.
You had to pay for it. It wasn't free. It was also like really hard to use. Like it was like really just like not user friendly to use.
And there was a lot of drama around. They would hold back major engine updates until their games had come out.
Yeah. And like Unity, that's why I basically the first engine I really got into was Unity. Yeah. And I just started using that because it was so user friendly. And it gave Unreal a lot of competition.
Yeah, it created competition. It served them very well as a business, I assume. And it just is, they're shooting themselves in the foot. It's just so strange.
And I like, is it a
what is the end game?
It's like a cash grab.
It feels
it's like a cash grab that they're just like, we're just going to trash this company for money.
If they are publicly traded, my guess is this is the CEO trying to golden parachute out, basically saying, I bet I would put money on him having some sort of major bonus deal. That it's like the company has to reach some revenue within this. If it reaches this revenue within this quarter or whatever, he gets this massive bonus, and he's probably wanting to retire.
And he's just going to basically trash the whole company to get it. Yeah.
And this is ultimately a problem with the way publicly traded companies are assessed as, like, on the market. It is quarterly returns. Or did you beat last quarter? The CEO bonuses are tied to quarterly performance. It's so rarely is there any sort of incentive to look at long-term success.
Yeah. I hate that thing of you have to constantly do better than last time. Yeah. Just making...
It's not sustainable.
It is.
You get this.
It literally is, because, how can people not be happy with, I mean, I don't know what they're making, but, for a company, being, a revenue of, 100 million a year, steadily,
Yeah.
How are people not happy with that? But they'll be like, oh, you're a failure because you made 100 million last year and you only made it 100 million this year.
You're only beating inflation or slightly beating it, not extremely beating it.
Yeah. You're not... Yeah, it's...
From a rational investor perspective, I understand that the goal is to make the most money as quickly as possible. I get that. But it is destructive for the actual companies.
Yeah, it really is.
You can see it in major companies like Apple, for example, where the cost of R&D has an impact on their bottom line for their shareholders. So any sort of long-term R&D either has to really generate something insane at the end of it, or has to get canceled within a few years.
Yeah.
So you don't see new products; you see the same product slightly upgraded year over year.